Alright, here we go again. Wounded Waters Bleeding against Sweden 6 this time around. Our last game was against England 6, which for the build we're playing, or the healing path we're playing, is probably the most consistently hard matchup. This game we are playing against Sweden, and Sweden is not consistently hard, but when it is hard, it is really hard. So let's just see what kind of game we are playing here by flipping the initial explorer, and it is wetlands. Alright, so that is not catastrophic. One of the things that makes Sweden so hard is that on some boards in solo you have just really bad first explorers. Now in multiplayer you can usually negotiate with your teammates about who gets which board, and you can just choose not to go on boards like this. But in true solo there's no such option unless you pick your own board, which I don't do. So if we get a jungle explorer, things look really bad because this land starts with 2 blight, and that means it will cascade in the first ravage. Unless truly exception, like there's some drafts that save that, but almost no draft does. But we've gotten wetlands, and then we got the town for our Sweden 4 setup rule, acceleration of the invader deck. That is maybe a problem down the line with land 7 now allowing for the Han in land 7 to be affected by the escalation. But we'll deal with that when it comes to that. For now, the first step is drafting that miner and seeing what we got. Oh man. I already wish we were playing, what's it called? Pure Roiling. I think I still need to go for Weep Forward as last here, right? It's 2 to 3 fear and pushes a town, and it costs 0, and it has 2 elements that we really want. It doesn't require any sacred sites. You could also savage more beasts, but I think I'd rather Weep Forward as last. You want to play both of them turn 3 or 4 anyway, and I think the extra element from Weep Forward as last is extra good. Alright, that leaves us with a play for turn 1. And we're going to choose Boon of Corrupted Blood. Let's see if it still acts. No, perfect. I should move one of my presences. I would like to be in land 1 or 4 in the long term, so maybe let's just start with land 4. And next turn we can start drawing these blight out of here. We're setting this to animal, we're setting this to animal. And with us being in land 4, we can just reach every land on the board, right? For our slow. That was the intention there. Land 2 would have done the same. We flip the first event and ignore it. No bravery without numbers. And probably wouldn't have been relevant anyway. Then we don't build in land 2. And we do not build in land 5 either. And we explore into land 3. So that is kind of interesting explore. And that with land 3, I now have to make a choice between Sanguinary Tainting land 3, which prevents a build, or Sanguinary Tainting land 2, which prevents a blight. I still have the option of drawing an event that is Star Hunt event or something, which would also prevent that second blight from land 2. Another question is land 2 is going to add a town. Maybe let's have a reminder here so we don't forget. When it ravages, I don't want it in land 3, so it probably goes into land 4, right? I guess so. But that is just unavoidable. See, something else I could be doing is that I could snipe the Explorer in land 2 and push the Dahan into land 3. That saves the Dahan, which is nice. It makes sure land 2 does not add 2 blight, which is nice. And it ends up with this land building, which is not nice. But I think my play is that I'm going to let land 8 go without... Like, land 8 looks solvable. It actually is solvable. Like, one thing I could do is this turn I could play Sanguinary Taint and snipe the Explorer, and then next turn I could play Draw to the Water's Edge and draw both of the towns. And then that land is solved. So I can solve land 8. It just does not seem worth it, probably. I think that is right. So given that I'm probably not going to save land 8, and I'm probably going to take a bunch of blight there, I think I'm going blight minimizing here. And do that. It also opens the option of drawing a defend here for land 3, which is always good to give yourself the option of activating more cards that you could draw from your drafts, right? The only bad thing here is that the Dahan are so far off. I mean, that seems like the correct card to play here, right? I mean, draw it whatever, right? I'm not looking to play it any quicker than I have to. Twilight Fog. I mean, it's a good card, but Encompassing Ward is not enough against this adversary. But bad scout for Raised by Darkness, man. 1 damage per Dahan in land 3. Pretty good. So I'm thinking we just let that through. Is there any world in which I place the town in here and then bad scout? I think the answer is no, right? Because after the build I could explore into jungle and that would be catastrophe. In fact, it could already happen, right? Yeah, I think I'm just generally speaking vulnerable to that. So I can and need to move a presence and start drawing the blight out of here. I think that seems like a reasonable place for this blight to be, right? I'm not gonna get any blight down here. Actually, I do. When I place into land 2 next turn, I'm going to be in a land with blight. So that seems good. And that land I'll just ignore, I suppose. Next turn I can draw if I need to. Drawing next turn would be really sad though. So here's a different argument. Or a different line of play. Maybe you just draw there. Draw to the Water's Edge. This turn. The upside is that I don't have to play that card turn 3. And playing it, so what is the issue with playing it turn 3? My strategy for winning this matchup is to hit the strongest turn 3, 4, and 5 that I can. Draw to the Water's Edge does lead to a weak turn 3 in terms of elements. The best you can still do is play another Water plus Anima card, and that means the best you will hit is something like level 2 of Swell and Spell. Swell and Spell is not the greatest innate there is. I mean, it would solve something like land 3, but it would solve it worse than using Sanguinary Taint level 2 would on the same land. But maybe that is good enough. Let me think about that. Next turn, I draw to the Water's Edge. Well, they've already built a city there then, huh? But that is when they bird scout here and then kill that town. So what happens if, let's say so that's another thing, of course. I give myself another turn to draw defend if I don't play bird scout this turn. Play draw to the Water's Edge on land 4. That means they build a town instead of a city, which also means that they ravage for 4 instead of 6, which also saves a blight, right? Assuming that I don't save that land, and I think that is correct. So yeah, I think I'm going to do that and just hope that, well, with the intention to hit better or more animal innates on the turns that follow. Which, I mean, animal innates are better, so I guess that's saying the same thing twice, just different. So how would we like to gather these towns? Not into land 4, 5, that's for sure. Guess we're gathering into land 6. If it explores here, that's already bad. In fact, we've said, here's something I'm a little bit unhappy about. I don't think it matters which explore we get. As long as it's not wetlands or coastal, we escalate, right? I mean, with land 6 there was nothing to be done. With land 7 there was nothing to be done. So the only escalation we had was we reduced... Yeah, basically that is not an escalation reducing play, huh? Turns out. I guess there's nothing to be done about that. Alright, we draw that into land 6 and we move the presence from land 5 there to do it. Okay, let's see what they event us. Thriving trade. I don't know what to say. Look, the only thing you can do is try to play your best, and if the events fuck you over, then that happens. And I get a disease in return. Damn you. I am allowed to push this presence though. And I will do that. And I think that kind of saves the whole thing again. Do I take 2 blight here? Yeah. Is it terrible if it comes up next year? But at least it prevents a blight in land 8. And in that case, we just kind of trade out the blight, right? 2 blight here and then no blight there. Same difference. And I guess we got a disease. And just hope it never comes up again. So, 2 blight and land 2, and we have to add a town. I guess, all things equal, I would rather have a blight, 2 blight and 1 ravage than 1 blight and 2 consecutive ravages as a responseless town, so. I mean, I'm talking as if land 3 was solved. Yeah, well, Actually, it does both, right? Explores, then escalates. This was one of the worst explores, but the good side the upside is that if we solve that land, then it stays solved, and we still... Now we can't really do much about that anymore. There's land 8. So if we draft good defend next turn, there are still ways to save that. I kind of need to decide now. I could just sweep that land next turn, huh? So I don't need any play this turn for that. That seems fine enough. So I should probably use Swell and Spill on land 3 instead of land 8. But the issue is if I use it on land 3, of course my Dahan can just get escalated again. But I mean, then again, there's no other option there. The alternative is they die. Or I gamble on the defend. My chances to draw some kind of defend are something like 30% maybe. I could pull out the Explorers too, but it's still 6 damage. So it's still double blights. And it also adds a town to land 2, I guess. Which, you know, I'm not that worried about, unless it comes up again next turn, which it probably will, huh? That means if I evacuate the Dahan, I should evacuate them to land 4. Was that always going to happen? Did I know, going into the turn, that in the case of Jungle Explorer, I needed draw to the water's edge? I can also report this loss in land 3, but they're still building that city, right? Which means they're still gonna do a shit ton of damage. I don't really know what the line of play here is. I mean, gamble on the defense, maybe. Land 8 is maybe something I'm supposed to solve here. So let's do that. Push that into here. And then let's see that card. Okay, that is a solution. There's already several solutions here. I think the best one is Courted Trade. Let them just build, who cares? We just get into late game. In late game, we win and Sweden loses. Entrap would have also worked, and that it would have printed the cascade at least. for next turn. But not letting them ravage also prevents the cascade. Voracious Growth might have also worked. Prevent one, heal one blight, and then the second blight you gather. And Renewing Boon, I guess, if you have a second player, but I mean, that is not a card in solo especially. That is just like a blank piece of paper on that slot. So it's coated right here, I think that's better than Voracious. We don't lose the Dahan. I don't get to gather any other Dahan into there. It does mean that I don't hit the units that I want. Nothing to be done about that. Move that into here. At least land 8 is solved. I could play Bad Scout. No, that's not allowed. They're not actually going to... I still have like 2 bad explorers, so I might lose all of my Dahan here to escalation before I get my factory back up and running. But it's okay, if we get to turn 5 we win the game. Do we need to wreck here? What happens in slow? What happens in slow is that I have 2 more cities in there. That makes that land basically unsolvable by any means that exist. Which means I should just pull out the Dahan and take the 2 blight next turn. That seems fine. For pushing out the Dahan I could play Bad Scout. But I would bid bad in terms of elements. Weep might not be bad. Could do good things in some other lands. What are my explorers? Sands? Ouch. Wetlands would be good, comparatively. Mountains and coastal. They all look better. I guess we have one of the hard games. I could Bad Scout and kill a town in there. I could also Bad Scout and pull the Dahan out. Or the way into. Probably the land that explores. Although there's no guarantee that there's a land that does good things there. But the issue with the Bad Scouts line of play is of course that I don't have good elements and I don't think I can afford bad elements here. I need the strongest elements I can have. Wreck is the wrongest card here, but I just don't know that it does anything. Have I already gathered some blight here? I might not have. I think I placed no, I don't think I did. I think I placed a presence in here. And so funnily enough, I could place a presence in here and gamble for uncanny, canny defense, or what it's called. Oh no, because they're doing 8 damage, right? And that is only defense 5. So we're calling that to trade. Saves us a bunch of blight. We need to heal animal here, which is a real shame. Because it guarantees that we hit 2 level 1 and 8s. Which means we don't get any cities. But what can you do? Okay, we are in slow. We call to trade. We don't have any Dahan together. Which is a shame because Roiling Waters is active now and we could start killing stuff. But I get to gather a town. So let's do that. Makes the Sand Explorer less terrible. And if they're gonna Ravage for 500 next turn, then they might as well do it for 502. Is that good enough? On Sands it does nothing. Yeah, I think I play that instead. Actually, I'll play that, right? Preventing city builds seems even better. That cost me 1 mana here. Alright, resource for populace. Terror level 1. I mean, it can only be better than thriving trade, right? Oh no, I get extra buildings. 1 disease to the inland land with the most buildings. Land 8, I guess. And then each build with at least 3 Dahan amongst their lands gains energy and reclaims. Yeah, I debated putting a presence in here for that reason, but I mean, I would probably just lose it again, right? So I'm in land 2, and that's fine. Then let's ravage here. And with ravage, I mean build. Due to call to trade. And then let's ravage there. And with that, I mean do nothing. Then we build here again and skip here again. And then we explore sands and get hit by the escalation again. And then we go into slow over. We need to remember that if we destroy buildings here, then we lose. What do you say? If we destroy buildings, then we lose. Then we get extra towns. But it is fine. I will Bloodwater and Bloodlust land 7 for sure. Print that city build. And then for land 4, nothing that I can do, right? I still have Sanguinary Taint and Silence Spell. I should save those Dahan. So let's push them into here using Silence Spell. And this land is safe, so they can stay there. And then there's still Sanguinary Taint, which does 1 damage, 1 fear, and pushes it to Dahan. Let's add the fear, and let's push maybe that Dahan into here, saving it from escalation. Alright, how are we looking? I think it's okay. Take 2 blight here, we add a town into land 2, I think that is fine. If next turn is coastal, yeah, maybe we have some issues. But our turn at least is gonna be strong. Going to heal water here, and we made it to turn 4, which, you know, something at least. We're also gonna make it to turn 5. So perhaps we're winning. Do I need a sacred site for any of my powers? I do not. Perfect. Then I think this is where I want to be. Is there a world in which I have to gather this blight? I think the answer is probably not. Is there a world in which this kills me? There's at least one event that makes me ravage in the land with the most buildings. That would be absolutely... probably loses me the game on the spot, honestly. There's only one event, but still, man. Let's hope we don't draw it. The Frontier Calls is not that event. Alright, we add 1 Explorer to lands without buildings when we explore. Then we add Beasts. It does nothing this turn, but you know, maybe it'll be good in the long run. Into lands without building or blight, right? So that only leaves land 1, I believe. And then we have to gather Dahan actually. Gather that into here, maybe? I'm not sure I'm gonna save that. Actually, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna save that. I also already know how I'm gonna save that. So it's fine. And it's safe from escalation here. Okay. Then we ravage here. Let's flip. Still healthy. I haven't looked at it yet, but I promise I'm gonna hate it. Let's add that town here before we forget. Town, not another city. Thriving crops. On each board, build in 3 lands, yeah, as I said. I think we still outscale Sweden despite all that stuff. I'll build here. That is a land that's already ravaged and already come up, so it's safe. And then I build not in land 7. Maybe on land 4, actually. They're already building. So do I want a second town in there? I don't have any Dahan to... And the answer wouldn't be bad. It just means that more of my slow goes into land 4 instead of into other lands. But I think I can afford it. It's comparatively low cost. And then I might build into land 6. I think that is okay. That's my 3 builds. Alright, then there's the regular builds. And then there's the Wetlands Explorer. I think that is one of the better explorers. I mean, it's one of the explorers that don't escalate. Now we saved ourselves from escalation. Also, this explores with 2, huh? Game being funny on me. But I think we are set up so that from here on out, we are no longer afraid, right? Maybe a coastal next turn is dangerous, but probably not even. So this land we will solve either this turn by Swell and Spell or next turn by draw. To the water's edge. The issue with draw to the water's edge next turn is that we can only draw it into land 5. And that land builds. So maybe we solve it this turn with Swell and Spell. There's also something we're gonna do here, right? We're gonna delete that city and push that Dahan out of there, and then we gather, and then we, that seems good. Maybe start with that. We sanguinary taint here. 1 fear, 1 beast, kill that city, push that Dahan to here, probably. Then we report as lost on land 2, right? 3 fear, we report as lost, and we push these 2 into here. Then that land is solved. That land is solved as long as we use draw to the water's edge in it. I could also do it the other way around, but then I have 5 Dahan in here or something, and I'd rather not. I'd rather have the 4 Dahan in there or something. I could bad scout that land, kill a town, and wreck the other, or I could start working on land 2. I can't really start working on land 2, that's not really a thing. So maybe you just do the boring play, that is, we bad scout land 7, and then we wreck with pen and creep it. And then I still have Swell and Spell. You know, maybe that last usage was Swell and Spell instead of wreck with pen and creep, because if it is, then let's add 1 fear, we push that into here, and we also push that and that, right? Into here. Killing these. And then we still have wreck with pen and creep. I've already added the fear, but yeah, push that into here maybe. It's not much of a difference, but I'll take it. Alright, we reclaim, we gain cards, we gain a minor. Okay, there's some defense cards. They're off element. It means we don't need draw to the water's edge, but we kind of still do, right? I just don't know what it does now. What I would like is some on-element cards. And that's just not what's on offer here. I guess the next best thing is defend. Defend 3 is okay. I'm not sure I am ever going to play it, but wait, Waters Renew this turn. And that means we can gather this Dahan into here, add a beast. That is 2 damage and kills that town. And then we defend for 3. And right. I guess we replace that town. Maybe I shouldn't have killed that city, huh? Maybe I should have killed the city in there. I guess so. Okay, so give me a second. What if I don't do that then? This was a dad, right? I think what this was put stage. Can I draw them into here? But I cannot balance Waters Renew at all. Maybe I should have seen that coming. Draw the towns into there. Waters Renew them, but don't hit the thresholds, maybe. You know, why don't I do that? I'll just draw these into here. If I'm not gonna kill them anyway, right? If I don't get the fear, then Waters Renew into here. Add that, kills the town again. And then it doesn't replace, sadly. But I still get a downgrade, and I'll downgrade that city. And that makes the land easier to deal with. 2 cities are kind of annoying. 1 city is easy. Especially if you have these kind of cards. Alright. We're still healthy. Population rises. Add a town on each board to a land with town or explorer. I would have liked to add an explorer here, but a town. Guess we'll add it to here. I think it'll be fine. Yeah. Add disease to the center mountains with the most buildings. That would be land 6. Each build with at least 2 Dahan gains an energy. Yeah, take that. We have our first fear cards. We get to add a disease and a strife in a land with or adjacent to beast. I think that is good. I get to remove buildings from lands in which they're the only invader. I'll do that. I get to remove explorers from land with beast or disease or 2 Dahan. I don't think there are any, so nothing happens here. In land 4 and 7, nothing happens in land 5. This doesn't build. And then it's not even coastal. So yeah, last 2 explorers were pretty good. Then it's my slow. I was going to nuke that town here, but now it's striven. Maybe I'll just add the strife to the town here. Or maybe... Do I have any residual damage? I want to have Dahan adjacent to that, so I would like to pull out of here, huh? So here's something I could do. I don't have Sanguinary Taint anymore. Man. Yeah, of course. I keep forgetting that I forgot my strongest power so far. Alright, we have Silence Spell, and then we have all of these cards, and they are all great against not cities, and the city is driven, so... I mean, the obvious move is to Silence Spell here, right? Let's just do that. 1 Fierce, kill that, Sweden cries, and I'm okay. I would like to get rid of these, would kind of solve my entire inland. I just don't really know how. That land I just assume is solved. Yeah, that land is solved by Waters Renew next turn. I also get Town Gather next turn, actually. If I had Defend, I could gather towns into here. Maybe I can use something with Call to Trade to gather towns into lands. Yeah, maybe I can use Call to Trade to gather a town into land 1 where it builds anyway, right? That doesn't seem too bad. Which means if I have a town in here, that's not so bad. So I think I'm definitely Weeping Forest last in land 3. And I'm probably not pushing anything. I just use it as 3 and fear, and then 2 fear for wreck. Push into here, I think. And it's good for pocketing, it's not good for anything else. I'm not sure that was right. we are going to gain an energy and probably draft a card, right? We have enough energy. And not enough good cards. Need to play these specific cards, and then either I need to draft a good card now or I need to reclaim next turn. So that's draft. Now there are some good cards. Mesmerized, huh? With Mesmerized I could play that instead. And then just isolate that land, right? Or isolate land 6 if I wanted to. That is funny too. Yeah, maybe I'll just do that. And next turn, worst case, I just reclaim, right? Yeah, reclaim and just isolate it again or something. What do I do with Cartograde then? Play it for the elements? I suppose I do, huh? I have so much more town push that I want. I just want all the towns to be in there, and I have town push into all the other lands. Can I use that for damage? 1 damage to something? Not easily. Maybe let's just start with land 1. Sorry, land 2. Gather that, add that beast, that kills a town. Replace 1 town with a Dahan. And then defend for 3, right? And that is that. Then we draw to the water's edge, these 20 here, and we isolate it using Mesmerized. And then I could Cartograde. Maybe Cartograde that into land 5, just so that it's closer to the rest of the board. Man, that is pretty expensive. Gather 1 Dahan and quick. But on the other hand, it has the elements that I want, right? So let's flip. Life balance tilts are hilarious. So this is fully defended. It's not affected by life balance tilts, but this... I don't have a lot of damage and quick and slow, but I have a little bit. So I could kill a city there. Would I hate going... No, I think that's correct, right? So the whole point of have a still healthy card is that you have more blight to play with, so I'm just gonna gamble the top. And it's... Man, I wanted that power. Oh well. Let's remove that and add a disease to any land that I want. How about land 3? I can have as many towns in there as I want, just cities are the problem. So we have to add a blight. Let's add the blight into land 1 and flip the blighted island card. Oh, another fucking still healthy card. I don't need more blight contingent or blight pool. What I need is to win the game. Actively harmful as always. And then Invaders and Diana less health. Sure. Restlessness. I can push stuff. I want my stuff exactly where it is. Daunted by the Dahan. I guess I get a fear. And the rest is irrelevant. Okay. This land dies in Ravage. This land doesn't do anything. This land, I guess, is prevented from building by that disease. And then they explore into here and into here, and that is that. I only gain... That did not spawn a turn, right? It's only when ravaging adds blight, correct. Alright, I'm in slow, silent spell, and I either need to kill that or I need to kill that. I think I'm supposed to do it here, right? I'm just reclaim next. Yeah. Kind of annoying, man, that I don't have good nukes anymore. Silence Bill is really a second-hand nuke, or second-rate nuke. I could still kill like a city there. Actually, can I defend that? Yeah, wait, that is a good what is your new target. Never mind then. So what happens is I push a Dahan into here, I guess. And a beast into there, and 2 beasts into there. That does 2 damage here and kills that city, and that kills that guy. 2 damage is enough because I'm at life balance tilts, right? They have less health this turn. Reclaim, gain 1 energy, gain that. Kinda minor, maybe we get more cards. I have a defend, I'll take it. I don't have good cards for my elements, but that's fine. I need to hit that. I need to play this card, sadly. Did I not have any? No, I did not have any water. Sorry. What I would need is a second card with water plus sun. But I don't have any but this one, so I need to play it every turn. And then re-wreck. And nonetheless, I can kind of choose myself. Huh? That land is saved. I could just ensure with confounding mists. I don't hate that. I already have a card that does something in slow. I wouldn't hate Bloodwater and Bloodlust either. Or Weep. Man, just 3 more fear seems good, right? How can you not weep? We gather these 2 into here. That's 1 damage. Adds a beast. That's another damage. Replace a town. And then defend for 3. And just to be sure, we'll pull that into here. Oh, no. Not the town, please. The Blight. I guess there's an event that adds a Blight here, but if it does, then so be it. I just don't want the Cascade. Single Blight is fine. I have Draw to the Water's Edge. I don't want to use it. As always. Cities Rise. Don't you just love it? Being still healthy. Don't you just... Surely you also wanted 2 more cities instead of only taking 1 damage to Blight, which the second one would have been a huge problem and exactly 0 of my lands. But sure, give me 2 more cities. Fuck you, game. Alright, I get more chances to push the stuff. That's exactly where I want it. And then I get the hand defend that I don't need. Perfect. Discord. Each player adds 1 strive to a different land with at least 2 invaders. Then each invader takes 1 strive per... Sorry. Per damage it has? Wait, it's 9 on the numpad, right? That is actively helpful, right? This land is gonna be a little bit big next turn. So maybe having some strive in here is good. Alright, we ravage. This thing dies. Fucking cities rise this turn. And then they don't build. And then they explore into these 2 lands. Okay. And now I have to find out how to sell that land. Well, how about you start with 3 fear? 3 fear is always a good start. So I will get to the city victory. And I just need to do 2 damage this turn. And then, yeah, if I can do enough damage this turn, then I can clear that land. So that was Weep. And I could push stuff out of there, but that's just not. And then I wreck. With Pain and Grief. 2 fear, just push, say, that into here. And then I Swadden Spur, 1 fear, and then I push that Explorer, and that Beast, and that Dahan into here. That is 2 damage and kills that city. I'm in terror level 3 now, which means I win the game. So I press Time Passes. I'll play this card. I'll play this card. I'll play this card. I'll take any growth option. Let's hope I didn't fuck it up, but I think I'm right here. As long as it hits Water's Renew, which it does. Pull that into here, add a beast. Kills that town. Downgrade that to a town. Replace that city with a Dahan. Win the game. Oh boy. That was one of the harder games. Probably not as hard as the England game, it feels like. But yeah. This was also one of the few games where pocketing really helped. Only in the last like 2 turns or something, but it helped with closing out the game, right? And that all that stuff down here just did not explore anymore. I didn't need to care whether or not they built towns or cities or whatnot. I could just focus that on that end. I think Call to Trade really helped us here. I think there was one mistake in turn 2 or something, where I didn't see exactly how bad the jungle explorer would be for me, with the land being a 2 towns and 2 explorers, and me only having level 1 of Svalin Spill available, and just having played Draw to the Water's Edge, so that not being available without Reclaim. So that was a bad turn. And I think the only real misplay this game. There might have been a little bit of inaccuracies here and there, but that was definitely a big one. And then what happens if that land comes up earlier? Say we draw back-to-back coastal afterwards. The answer is it just spreads a bunch. And we hope that we don't draw a 3 blight card. And we maybe would have been able to deal with that. We were able to deal with all the other explore fairly easily, and perhaps we could have just thrown everything we had into that land, and it would have worked out maybe. But maybe also we lose the game, I'm not 100% sure. Yeah. But in the event, or with the explorers that we got, the land just didn't come up, or coastal did not come up in stage 2 after all. And with that, we had enough time to get stronger, clear the rest of the board, and then eventually just deal with that land by pushing everything into it and getting rid of the cities, despite fucking Cities Rise trying to kill me there at the end. GG.